Hey guys, it's me. So I'm just making this is a really quick. My hair be looking wacko. This is a really quick webcam question and answer video because I had a subscriber or a viewer, Javier Gonzalez, comment on my video talking about or showing off turbo spool sounds and whatnot and pulls for the POV drive for the Subaru. So he commented on that, and he has recently picked himself up a '03 WRX wagon. So that's pretty awesome. And he had a couple questions for me. So this video is for you, and I hope I can give adequate answers to a lot of your questions. So starting off, his first question is, do you blip the throttle when going up a gear to help make it more seamless? And I don't. I don't blip the throttle when I go up gears. That's really something you do when you're downshifting. What I do is, when you're going from a dead stop in first gear, and you've got your clutch. So say this is the clutch. I know it's mirrored. It might be coming outward, but say this is the clutch, and then you got your gas. So you're coming up, and on the WRXs, say the biting point is right around here. So you're coming up, you find that biting point, and you kind of smooth it out with a little bit of gas as you let out. It's that sort of motion. So it's not a clutch in, blip out. It's a clutch in, smooth. You do want to use the throttle to smooth out your upshifts. And generally, when going from like fourth to fifth at high speed, you don't need any throttle at all. It'll go pretty smooth all on its own. But giving it just that little bit of gas, especially down in like second, third gear, but just the same way you would coming off of a stop, in first gear. So just to smooth it out a little bit, as you hit the biting point, just feather the gas, and then as you let out the clutch, start to give it a little bit more. As the clutch engages. So just a little bit, and you don't need to put nearly as much gas in as you do when you're setting off. So it's just enough to smooth it over. I find that to be very helpful, but I don't blip the throttle on upshifts. And his next question is, what's the appropriate RPM range to shift up gears? I feel like 3,500 seems too low for the turbo to spool correctly, and 4,500 plus sounds like the turbo is screaming its turbine off. So for me, this really depends. I have a video that I've been working on for a while. It should finally be up soon about understanding turbo boost, and hopefully that'll help you a little bit with those sort of things. But for me, during normal driving, when I'm trying to be relatively economical, I tend to shift up at about 3,000 to 3,500 RPM, because you don't need boost all the time when you're driving around town. There's really no point. I could try to keep it off boost, especially before it's warmed up on like cold days, or just when I don't want to be on boost. I'll generally shift around 3 to 3.5. Because when you're on boost, it's worse for fuel economy. It's not really necessary. But I do like to drive it. I do like to feel the boost when I drive it. So I'll oftentimes, at least for segments, shift up at like 4.5, 4,000 RPM. And I'll do that. That's the joy of a manual transmission, though, is you get to decide how you want the car to behave. So, but another thing to remember is that your boost, and I'll talk about this a lot more in the video, but your boost is not proportional to your revs. It's about how open your throttle body is. So you can be at like 4,500, 5,000 RPM and making no boost, because you're only feathering the throttle and you just let the throttle climb, but you're not actually letting it build any boost. So you can have it at 4,500 RPM and not be making boost. You can have it at 3,000 and not be making boost, or you can have it at 3,000 and making partial boost. I mean, you can open it up in second gear and hit boost by like 4,000. I mean, you can probably max boost by like 4,000 if you open it up all the way from a standstill. Well, not from a standstill, but from nothing in second gear. So it really just depends. I find for like normal commuting, 3,500 is a good time to shift up gears. Or you can go off of first gear is getting moving, second gear is parking lot speed, third gear is 30. You want to be in third gear by 30, fourth gear for 40, fifth gear 50 up. I mean, you can go off of that as well if you just want to be economical and driving normally. But I mean, I'll mess around with it and do whatever. So it really depends. Hopefully that answers your question relatively well. I know it's a little bit convoluted and sort of rambly, but basically you get to pick. And I'll have a video up about understanding turbo boost a little bit more that might help. And another thing that helps a lot, which he talks about in this next question, is the boost gauge. So he says, I noticed you had a OEM Lamco gauge. I've been considering getting one with the OE column cover. I presume he's talking about the steering column. And saw a few videos of where to connect it. And is right next to the blow-off, and it is right next to the blow-off valve. Is that where the original position is on the factory spot? ? So first of all, I 100% recommend installing the OEM boost gauge because it will help you figure out when you should be shifting. So if you feel like the turbine is screaming at 4.5K, that's probably because you've got the throttle wide open by 4.5K. And if you don't want to be hitting max boost, having a boost gauge will help you, modulate your throttle, stay off boost if that's something you want, or it'll help you realize, if you're in fifth gear and you're lugging the engine for no reason, it'll help you realize all those things. And so I find it very helpful. It's also really cool looking. I think it looks really nice, and it's pretty. I mean, it's fun for passengers to look at. It's pretty cool. I definitely think it's a good idea to install. And as far as where the connection is, I'm not super well versed, but I think you're correct on that as far as where it needs to be positioned. So I can't say anything definitively, but just to show you, so you have an idea. I mean, nothing's been done here. The intercooler has never been removed. This is all OEM. So I believe what you're looking for is this line right here. I'm not 100% sure, but I can see it. It runs along here, and then it's right here. It gets pinned there, and then you can see it. It's a little grommet. You can't see it super well in this footage, but it's sort of. Let me see if I can. It goes. Yeah, it's sort of dark down there, but you can see. Yeah, you can see it from here. I believe that's where it goes into the cabin. Not 100% sure if that's the actual line for the boost gauge, but I'm inclined to believe so. So I think that's it. If not, this is your OEM look at this region in the O2 WRXs. So hopefully that's helpful. I'm not super knowledgeable on that, but I'm forced to believe that is what I'm looking at. So moving on to your next question. For rev matching, how did you develop a feel for the car when you downshift? I understand you can literally shift down gears and such, but it feels so jerky, and I feel like I'm killing the poor thing when I do so. Same as trying to rev match when I accidentally try to give it gas, and it is a little bit too low for the gear I'm shifting down to. So this is something that it takes time. It takes practice. You need to develop your skills. You'll continue to improve as you drive the car, but it's just gonna take time. So when I downshift, I mean, when I was first starting off downshifting, one, I didn't downshift much. It was mostly just braking. Two, I was mostly just braking. Two, when I downshifted, like when I was coming down to a stop sign, I didn't think I was gonna have time to put it back in first, and I wanted to go to second. I would just wait till I was at pretty low speeds, maybe 35, 30 miles per hour. Put it into second and just very slowly, so let off the clutch find the biting point and hold it, and as soon as you find the biting point, you know, it'll slow down. It'll start slowing down. You'll start getting that engine braking. And as soon as you hit that, and you just sort of let that, you hold it at the biting point, let it do its thing, and then slowly let it out. And the slower and smoother you do that, the easier it'll be. But rev matching is really good. It reduces strain on all the components and everything, so it's nice. And now I'm at the point where I am pretty often switching gears just to optimize everything, and I'm pretty decent at whipping the throttle and rev matching. So you want to be using the throttle. So it took me a while to get to the point where I could blip, but basically what you want to do is say you're going to shift gears, going down from like third to second, clutch in, have your foot at the ready, and then as you start to let out, you have to have a pretty good feel for your biting point. But before you get to your biting point, just throttle all the way to the floor, a nice blip. I mean, you know, as a blip is. You blip it really quick, and then you try to catch the revs. Don't go super fast with your foot. It should be a smooth. You'll get a hang of the timing as you do it more, but it should be a smooth in, blip, wah. Or I held my foot hand down, but it should be a in, blip sort of thing. So it is a little bit hard. If it's jerking a lot, you're probably not giving enough gas. Or what I was doing for a while is I would just do clutch in, I'd blip the throttle, but I'd take too long disengaging the clutch, or take too long. It's not about how long I took disengaging the clutch, it's how long I took to find the biting point. I take too long getting to the biting point, and by that time the revs will have dropped back to idle. So there's no point in the blip. What I found is if I'd go in and I'd go with the muscle memory and I'd blip, and the revs would already be falling as I was bringing my foot up, and I just blip again, and then it would be good enough. And then you'll start to get just like a feel through muscle memory, and your brain will start to make the connections, like what RPM you should be at for different speeds when you're trying to downshift to different gears. That will just come naturally with time. So just give yourself time to figure that out, and as you get better at downshifting, that'll start to come. I don't know how well I'm explaining this, but I'm doing my best. So what else? Feels like I'm killing it. So if you feel like you're killing it, or if you feel like you're being way too rough for what you're doing, it's probably because you're not, like I said, you're not giving it enough gas, or you're not getting it up to. And remember, it's easier, it's better. You know, you're less wear on the components if you have it at too high of a rev when you let out the clutch. If you have it at too low of a rev, you can let it assist you, and just, you don't have to be double clutching it. You can let it assist you as it, downshifts, as you downshift. But yes, let's see what else. I know this is sort of rambling. I'm not making a ton of sense, but I hope you're getting something out of this. Just practice. Take your time with it. So, I mean, just to show you one more time. So it's clutch in, blip. So clutch in, blip, clutch in, blip. You see a little bit maybe. It's a little bit weird. You'll get a hang of it with time. I found that I'm pretty sure I learned how to do it from Initial D, just watching how the timing of how they blipped and then they let off. And I know that's literally an anime, but watch other people, watch other YouTube videos, and you'll get the feel for it. So the important thing to remember is too much gas is better than too little gas, as long as you're consistent and smooth with your clutch work. So, but if you're like, oh shoot, I blipped the throttle and now I gotta let it out, and you just blah with your clutch and let it dump the clutch, that's not good. It's better to find the biting point and hold it, but as long as you're consistent with your clutch work and you know 100% of the time where your bite point is and how you can get it there and how you can smoothly engage with the clutch, then it's all right if you rev it a little bit too high on downshifts. So don't be too worried about that. And then the next thing is bite point. And and stalling, especially on inclines. Do you do gas first before letting off the clutch, or do you find the bite point and then start giving it gas? So, gas first and letting off the clutch is basically launching it, which is not great for especially the 5-speed in the wagons. Not good for them. So what I do when I'm on a hill, and I have a pretty nasty left turn that's pretty close to my house, which is on a pretty steep incline. But what I do is I pull up, put the car in first, and I'm holding it with clutch and brake. So I'm holding it there. And then as I know I'm about to get moving, I'll let the clutch out to the biting point, and keep my foot on the brake. So you should feel the car, or maybe not quite the very beginning of the biting point. So not when it's, fully engaged, but the very beginning of the biting point. And then I'll let the brake off and smooth with gas. Smoothly give it a little bit of throttle so that it evens out. And if you do it right, you shouldn't roll back at all. And it's okay to roll back a little bit as long as you catch yourself with the gas and the clutch. It's not a big deal. And then it's the same principle if you've ever done a handbrake assist on a hill. So you hold the handbrake and then you let out on the clutch and you feel the car start to fight itself. And then you're giving it a little bit of, at the same time as you're letting out the clutch, you're giving it starting or preparing to give it a little bit of gas. And then you drop the handbrake, give it gas to smooth it out, and then go. So that's how I do it. So if it's bucking a lot, then you're just dumping the clutch without much input from the throttle, obviously. But and it's better to buck the car and be a little rough on it than to roll back into the person behind you or a tree or whatever. But I think the method that works for me the best is, and handbrake is totally viable, especially when you're getting a feel for hill starting. But I find clutch in, brake, slowly, and it's not like you're not mashing the throttle. I said that sort of loudly, sorry. You're not mashing the throttle. You're just, same as letting off in a parking lot. Maybe a little bit more gas to smooth it out and to get that good, momentum. But you're just, smoothing out the clutch engagement. And this will all come with foot feel, and it just takes time. For the exterior. So, yes. I got some. So, for the WRX logo, which is down in the left corner, bottom left corner, it's 3 inches up from the trunk, and it's 1.5 inches from the side of the trunk. For the Subaru logo, the capital letters spaced out along the trunk, each letter is 7 3/4 inches from the bottom of the trunk, and each letter is spaced about 2 inches, but it's 1 15/16 inches from each other, and then they're spaced 1 foot and 5/8 from the side, 5/8 inch. So, yeah. So just so you have an idea, from here to here is about 3 inches. From right over here to right here is about 1.5 inches. The letters is about 7 3/4 inches away from down here. And spaced basically 2 inches apart. It's closer to 1 15/16 to be more exact, but they're basically 2 inches apart. And then they're spaced from here to over here 1 foot and 10/16 of an inch on both sides. It's pretty much even. So there are your... So, yes. And I'd like to say I very much respect you for wanting to, one, install the OEM gauge cluster and not do some crazy wacko cluster Fast and Furious setup. And two, I very much respect you for putting the emblems back on the car if you do end up doing that. I think it's, I really like to see stock new age Imprezas, stock bug eyes, stock blob eyes, stock GDs in general. Not that I absolutely love the aftermarket community for GD chassis Imprezas. I absolutely love the Subaru enthusiast community, but I think it's one of those cars that we should be preserving. You know, we're getting to the point where, you know, people are really starting to preserve the GC8s, and I think we should give the. I like seeing stock bug eyes. It will pain me to see the day when you cannot find a stock bug eye anymore. And I think we should, as much as I love aftermarket Subarus and the things you can do to them, and that's why one of the reasons why Subaru is such a great company, because you can do so much to those cars. But I really like to see pure, well-preserved Imprezas and just in general turbo Subarus. I really think we should be, you know, there should be some people whose priority is preserving these cars for the next enthusiasts. So, and yeah. And not that a little bit of tasteful mods is a bad thing. Absolutely not. But I think I respect closer to stock Impreza builds or Imprezas than I do built Imprezas. But anyway, so I really respect that. I like this guy's attitude. I like your attitude with how you're going about maintaining your car. Yeah. Thank you for the questions. I hope I answered them okay. I should have some more videos about the Impreza coming out really soon. If you have any more questions, please comment them. I hope this is useful. I will make more of these if people want. I love answering these types of questions, and I hope that I did a decent job. If not, again, correct me and let me know what I can do a little bit better, and I'll try to get back to you. So thank you, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.